بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته وتبع هداه إلى يوم الدين. تركنا المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك وبعد. So alhamdulillah, I think all of us now have entered into the blessed month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it a source of fulfillment and raising of degrees and expiation of sins and emancipation from the hellfire and taqarrub and closeness and ma'rifah and rif'ah, knowledge and raising in our knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're reading, as you know, from Al-Fath al-Rabbani al-Rahmani, a set of 62 discourses, the sublime revelation and the divine merciful outpourings of Sayyidina Shaykh Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani radiyallahu anhu. And these were a set of discourses recorded by his students over a period of 2 years in Medinat al-Salam, the city of peace, otherwise known as Baghdad, in the years 545 and 546 of the Hijrah. And as we've said before, he was doing this over a couple of decades, not just 2 years. But what has reached us and what was mudawwan, what was documented by his students, are these particular 62 that we see here. And it was said that tens of thousands of people would attend these majalis, these discourses, and there would be 400 scribes who would fill their inkwells with ink to write down everything that he said. And as you can see, the Shaykh, his style, his discourse is rather straightforward, rather simple. He does make use of some metaphor and things like that. He doesn't really quote poetry that we can see. Other authors have done that. But you get the sense, the feeling that there was what they say, sidq al-lahja. There was a sidq, there's a sincerity in the manner that he was speaking. And so something that leaves the heart, from one heart, then finds its way to another heart, as Ibn Ahmad ibn Ata al-Sakandari says in one of the hikam. ما يخرج من القلب يصل إلى القلب. That which leaves the heart will find its way to other hearts. And that which merely is said on the tongue, لا يتجاوز الآذان. وما يخرج من اللسان لا يتجاوز الآذان. And that which is merely said on the tongue, just words, then they do not go past the ears. In other words, it's not penetrative. It doesn't, ليس لها وقع, right? It doesn't find its way. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give all of us sidq al-lisan wa sidq al-lahja, that we have pure intentions and pure hearts, and then inshallah our tongues, then what we say, what we speak will reflect bi'idhnillah the sidq or the sincerity that we strive to have in our hearts. So we reached the 34th discourse. So we read it from 2 last time, and I think we might do the same this time because some of these are kind of short coming up and some are longer. So let's just go and see. So here it doesn't say exactly when this was said or what date. He just said وَقَالَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ بَعْدَ كَلَامٍ. So there was some discussion, and then he says القوم شغلهم البذل وإيجاد الراحة للخلق نهابون وهابون ينهبون من فضل الله عز وجل ورحمته ويهبونه للفقراء والمساكين المضيق عليهم يقضون الديون على المدينين العاجزين عن قضائه هم الملوك لا ملوك الدنيا فإنهم ينهبون ولا يهبون القوم يؤثرون بالموجود وينتظرون المفقود يأخذون من يد الحق عز وجل لا من أيدي الخلق اكتساب جوارحهم للخلق واكتساب قلوبهم لهم ينفقون لله عز وجل لا للهوى وأغراض النفس لا للحمد والثناء. So let's just look at that first part. He said the people of the Lord, here al-qawm, and this is just, I don't know if we talked about this before, but the word al-qawm, when we see this word, really literally it means the group or the folk or the people What he's talking about here is very specifically al-qawm يعني أهل الله. And we say أهل الله تفاؤلا. We say the people of Allah in an optimistic sense. At the end of the day, we don't know what's in people's hearts. لا نزكي على الله أحدا. Right? So to say that, oh, this person is from the people of Jannah, or this person in Ahl al-Wilaya, or this person is that. If we do say something like this, and we have to have proper adab and etiquette, we mean it in a sense, tafa'ulan, we're optimistic, or as a dua, or as a supplication that, or we qualify it either by qualifying with a qualifying phrase or in our intention. So, نحسبه كذلك, right? We say Sayyid al-Qadir al-Jilani, radiyallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him. So even when we say radiyallahu anhu ar-rahimahullah, so that sounds like I am designating that Allah already had mercy upon him, or Allah is already pleased with him. But in actuality, it's a supplication, it's a dua. So when I say fulan, this person, Allah has had mercy on him. That's how it sounds in Arabic, literally. But it has the meaning of may Allah have mercy on him. And this is a rhetorical device that you find in Arabic, where it says, they call it وضع الإنشاء في موضع الخبر. So insha means you're asking for something, or you're questioning something, you're not stating something. It's not a statement. So I'm not making a statement when I say Shaykh Abd al-Jilani radiyallahu anhu. I am making a supplication. Or when I say fulan rahimahullah, or al-Walead rahimahullah, my father, may Allah have peace upon him. So it's not a statement, but it's a supplication, it's a dua. لأن هذه من الأمور الغيبيات. What is actually someone's status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nobody knows except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not even Sahib al-Maqam, not even the person themselves can say with a certainty, I am this, I have this particular place with God, or this particular maqam with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Laysa bil qata', right? Not in an assertive sense of certainty. That's why many of the theologians, they said it's okay to say something like, Ana mu'min insha'Allah, right? I am a believer insha'Allah. In other words, my khitam, the way I'm going to end up, the way I'm going to pass away, insha'Allah, I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me a death, and I am in a state of Islam. I die as a Muslim, natiq bil-shahada mathalan, that I say the shahada before I pass away. This is our hope, and this is our supplication. So when he says al-qawm, he means specifically the ones who delved into the sciences of tazkiyah, the sciences or the disciplines, the spiritual disciplines of spiritual purification. So they'll say like al-qawm kada kutub al-qawm, the books of the qawm. So usually it's referring to, in a more specific sense, people who studied tasawwuf, or wrote about it, or practiced it, or taught it, or somehow were involved in it. And it doesn't necessarily mean them as a group of scholars specifically, but it could also mean people who look towards the issues of the heart and understood that the outward acts were a means by which to purify the inward. So when he says al-qawm shaghalahum al-badhl, right, the people, or the people of God, of the Lord, they were busy with, or in the busy of spending freely and making life easier for their fellow creatures as professional robbers and givers. So this is a metaphor that the Shaykh is using. Nahabun, and Nahab is the one who's takes robbing things from people as a profession, and givers, right? Wal-Wahhabun, al-Wahhab is the one who continually gives. They plunder the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and give it to the poor and the needy who are in straitened circumstances. They settle the debts of debtors who are unable to pay what they owe. They are the kings, but not the kings of this world, because the latter rob and do not give. The Lord's people make the most of what is available and wait for what is lacking. They take from the hand of the Lord of Truth, min al-haq azza wa jal, not from the hands of creatures. What they acquire with their physical bodies is for other creatures, and what they acquire with their hearts is their own. They spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to satisfy desire and self-interest, and not to gain praise and acclaim. So what does it mean to take from the hand of God, to take from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is that like a literal thing? No, it's not a literal thing, obviously, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say, هو منزه and كل ما يشبه الخلق, he transcends and he does not resemble his creation in any way whatsoever. So it means that you see the one giving you is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you may still get a salary from your job, and you may still collect rent from the properties that you sell or properties that you rent out. You may still collect a pension, but the idea is to see that the one who is actually giving you is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what they mean by, you see the one giving, the al-Mu'ti, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or al-Mu'ti, the one who gives. And so no other beings, no other creatures can participate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any of his attributes. That is a standard, fundamental, basic issue of creed, of aqidah. So if we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-Mu'ti, that means la mu'tiya ghayrahu. There's no one else who actually gives except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that means I see anything that comes my way, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one giving me, right? And also, he is the one who takes away. So just like huwa al-Mu'ti, also al-Qabid, he is the one who takes or grabs from the khalq. So in actuality, the giving and the receiving, I see it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the true Mu'ti, he is the one giving, then he is giving you not as your right, not because you're entitled to it, not because you deserve it, and even not because you asked for it, but out of his fadl, right? Out of his favor upon you, that was not precipitated or preceded by anything that you did in order to receive it. So we never look at our deeds then like, oh, Allah gave this and this to me because I did all this for him. You do it for him, but actually you're doing it for yourself, right? Because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you to do. That's what he asks you to fulfill, to practice your deen, and ultimately that is going to be the best thing for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gave you responsibilities. If he made you a person of receiving things and ease in your life, and there are others around you who don't have such ease in your life, in their lives, like he mentioned here, straitened circumstances. And we see the Shaykh, he said this many, many times before, and tuwasi al-fuqara. And muwasat al-fuqara means tatyib qulubihim, make their hearts light and enter, bring happiness to them, help them. So we don't see in our Islamic ethos, we don't see people as people who, whatever circumstances they find themselves in, as something that they brought upon themselves, that they are recipients because they were negligent in something. So if someone is in a difficult circumstance, we don't look at them and say, well, if they worked harder, if they weren't as lazy, or if they studied harder, or if they did this, then they wouldn't find themselves in the circumstance that they find themselves in, right? They say, don't look at people bil-ihtiqar or al-izdira. There are certain things that are prohibited to look at, both physical, and that we know about. So another ila al-awrat. So looking at things that are the nakedness of people that you're not allowed to look at. Those are things we should refrain from looking at by our physical eyes, because by refraining from looking at things by our physical eyes, we protect our hearts that way. Once an image gets into your head about something that you looked at, that you shouldn't have looked at, it's hard to get out, number one, the image, and it will leave some sort of semi-permanent mark upon you. And this we know by tajribah, we've experienced it. It will leave a semi-permanent. And I say semi-permanent because inshallah it won't be forever. But some of the awliya, they used to say, I looked at such a thing, or I wasn't supposed to do this thing, and then I couldn't find my heart for like 6 months. It set me back in terms of my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it did some damage to the relationship. So just like you can do damage to a human relationship, right? If you have a friend or a spouse and you get in a spat, and they say some things that you regret, and then you walk away from each other, and it kind of, and you might sort of try to work around it, but sometimes that damage can last a while. even though you try to, mend fences and so forth. Similarly, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can damage your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes it could be as subtle as removing something that you took for granted for a long time. Like the ease of waking up for Salat al-Fajr, for example, waking up fairly easily to pray. Or when you hear the adhan, or we know that the prayer time comes in, you feel like this nahda, you feel this inspiration to go and pray right away. And then تتراكم المخالفات. Maybe you slipped here and there, you did some things, and you made a conscious decision to do things that you weren't supposed to do, and then you find it's difficult to, or more difficult, not as easy, let's say, as to get up for praying Fajr prayer. Or when you hear the adhan, you don't get up right away. You kind of, you're a little bit hesitant, and you're looking, oh wait, I'm watching my TV program, or let me just answer this email, or let me just do this. Whereas previously, you felt like, no, I have to drop everything, and this is the most important thing. And that's a ni'mah, right? It's not something that you did, but it's something Allah gave you. And sometimes He shows you and takes these things away. وَيُقَدَّرْ عَلَيْكَ الْإِثْمِ, right? Sometimes He will put you in a position where you commit a sin, but what you do next is the important part. So if you slipped and you made a mistake, you can say, okay, it's all lost, it's gone. You can have a loss of hope, right? And Ibn Atha Secondary says if you lose hope in Allah after that, then that's a sign of an i'timad al-amal. That's a sign you're dependent upon your deeds when you should be dependent upon Allah's mercy. So look to Allah's mercy, look to Allah's forgiveness, and then take this ithm as a sign. Perhaps now you will stop taking those things for granted and realize what a blessing that they were to begin with, and that they were not a result of anything that you specifically did to deserve them, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يَخْتَصُّ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifies His rahmah and gives and will raise you and will expiate your sins out of His immense and infinite mercy, not of anything that you did. So al-qawm wa ahlillah, they realize this, and so nahabun means they're looking for any mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as soon as they get it, they want to show gratitude and shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if it's something that is of material, that is the least precious in their eyes. So they're ready to part with it. So if they see someone who's in debt, if they see someone who's having financial difficulties, if they see someone who's in need, yuwasihi, right? Not because he thinks he's better than them. وَهُوَ الْمُتَفَضِّلْ عَلَيْهِمْ. Don't ever think that. Don't think you're the one who's doing them a favor. This idea of thinking, I did this person a favor, this is called al-man or al-imtinan. وَالْمَنُّ لِلَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. The only one who does favors for anybody really is Allah, right? When we say someone did you a favor, it means they did it, and not because you deserved it, but they're doing you a favor, just out of the goodness of their heart. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite and immense in that sense. So, and even the Quran tells us, لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Do not ruin your sadaqat, right? And sadaqat here can mean financial, things that you actually give. And it could also mean favors you've done for people, time that you've given them, attention that you've given them, you've taught them, you've given them a ride to the hospital, whatever it is that you consider to be a sadaqah, something that you do out of the goodness of your heart. Don't ruin it. لا تبطلوا, don't corrupt it. Actually, it says don't invalidate it, like it didn't happen at all. بالمن والأذى, right? And then man means I expect some show of gratitude from the one that I showed my favor upon. That's only a divine right. That's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from human beings one to another. So don't ruin your sadaqat. Don't ruin it by expecting them not even to return the favor, but maybe you expect them to be grateful in their heart. Maybe you don't want anything for them to return, but you expect from them some gratitude. They said that, how do you know if you're in that position or not? Because the nafs is tricky. Your ego is going to trick you, and it's going to make you think, no, you don't want any favor from them, you did it for Allah, so forth. They said, if you have two people, one of them that you did a favor for and one that you did not, and both of them kind of don't show you the esteem or the deference that you would expect, maybe because they're younger than you or whatever it might be. If you are more upset with the one who you showed a favor to, then that's an indication you have this men in your heart. Men means that you accept or expecting some gratitude to be shown your way from their part. So truly, if you're doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't expect anything, right? And al-amal al-salih yarfa'u, which is going to come, I think, later. إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه. In the 35th majlis, he talks about it a little bit. The good word is raised to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Yas'adu, it rises, the good word rises. In other words, it has an ascendancy in dunya and akhirah. وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُ. And the good deeds, Allah raises them. And one of the means, or one of the signs of Allah raising them, and there is acceptance for the deeds that you did, is nisyan al-amal, right? Is that you forget about it. So it means, oh, I did this person a favor and that favor. You don't even remember. So your interaction with them is not based upon, oh, I did this guy a favor, so I'm waiting for some deference and some, to give me some, sort of thank you, or send me a bouquet of flowers, or whatever it is that people have an expectation of. Nothing like that, because you're not even thinking about whether he's going to say thank you or not. What are you thinking about? You think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, أنت مشغول بالله, right? That's what he says here in the beginning about al-qawm. شغلهم البذل وإيجاد الراحة للخلق. You're just thinking about helping and giving, not what you can get in return. So, the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is their ethos. This is how they live, and they see that everyone has their circumstances that Allah gave them. And if you find yourself, as we've said a couple of times before, that people in need coming to you, or not even coming to you, right? Because some of them لا يسألون الناس الحافة, some of them don't even ask, and they don't even show their hal. But you find that you're in a position to help. Well, Allah placed you in that position, like we said in the last session. If Allah wants you for something, yuhayyi'uka, right? He prepares you. He puts you in a place. So this tahiyya is a sign of al-inayah. It's a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you for something special. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared the Prophet for something special. Aam al-Huzn, the year of sadness, as it's commonly referred to in the seerah, when he lost both his uncle and then his wife just days later, Khadija radiallahu anha. And then a few months later, after that, the Prophet ﷺ was prepared for the greatest night of any human being's life ever in this dunya, Laylat al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. So the night of the night travel from Mecca to Jerusalem, Bayt al-Maqdis, and then the raising the Prophet ﷺ to the highest of the heavens and the Sidratul Muntaha, to a place even Jibreel alayhi salam said, I can go no further. If I go any further, lahtaraqt. If I go any further, I would be burnt to a crisp. But yet, here is the Prophet ﷺ, who ostensibly is a human being and made of clay, and Jibreel is made of light, and he couldn't go that far. But the nur of the Prophet ﷺ, the light of prophethood, is even a stronger light. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared him, put him in a prepared state, so that he can do that. So sometimes the lesson for us in this is we think there's no way I can get through this mihna, this trial, or this tribulation, this thing. I can't see myself getting through that. But Allah will prepare you to get through it. If you're meant to get through it, you will get through it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put you in a position, inshallah, while you'll be able to make it through. So may Allah give us that, inshallah, to make us the people of preparedness and ista'dad, right? Al-madad ala qadr al-ista'dad. So how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you in terms of bounties and favors is how ready are you for it. And how do you make yourself ready? Avail yourself of it. Fulfill the commands and avoid the prohibitions, right? Don't worry about which maqam and hal and, where are you in the celestial realm and all of this. All of that is not really our concern. We believe it exists and it's there. And yes, if you make mujahada, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. People who give mujahada, who strive and struggle, yes, this will be the outcome. But the result, the outcome, can be in this dunya or it can be in the next life. Some of them, they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give people, and this happens I think quite often, more than we realize, He gives them their wilayah right before they die, or right at the point of death. Yuhayyi'uhum, right? He prepares them for that. Maybe they didn't see that, or maybe they didn't have a nasib, an allotment of it in this life, but as they get closer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to be of that maqam in the next life, and so He gives it to them, maybe via sickness, maybe via trial, maybe via tribulation, a number of things, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives them that thing that they were searching for, that thing that they were making mujahada for, this ultimate knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the days or the moments before they actually go meet God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for others, before that. And for others, they may enjoy something of that, what we call Jannat al-Ma'rifah or Jannat al-Ma'arif. So there's Jannat al-Na'im, there's the Jannah of Jannat Adn, the Jannah of paradise, the afterlife. And then there's the Jannat al-Ma'arif, the Jannah of this life, which is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? To have mushahada, to worship with ihsan, ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tara, to worship Him as if you see Him, to have ar-rida bil-qada, to be contented with the divine decree, and then in that sense you are contented with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, inshallah that will be the outcome, but you don't know when, and you don't know how. So don't necessarily live and wait in anticipation for that, because they say that's a veil. If you keep saying to yourself, when is my opening going to come? When are things going to make sense to me, and I'm going to have this opening, and I'll feel contented and okay with who I am? That's a veil, that type of thinking. As long as you are contented with who you are, then you're stalled. But if you are not contented and you feel like there's more to know and there's more to do, then you're moving, right? Man istawa yawmahu fahuwa maghbun, as the Prophet ﷺ said. The one whose 2 days are the same, then he's been cheated, right? If you think yesterday is the same as today, and then tomorrow is going to be the same, and you're kind of like at a steady, no, there's no steady level. Either you're going up or you're going down. Either you are increasing in your days or you are decreasing. Because by staying what you think is staying steady, it's actually a decrease. We want to increase. We want to grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many of them said, there's no barakah in the day that I don't get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That I don't, something new becomes apparent to me or available to me, and I learn something new. There's not a lot of barakah in that type of day. So they're looking for the blessing. That's why they emphasize the spiritual routines. And when one wakes up in the morning, to head to wudu, to be in a state of wudu, to pray the fajr, to do the dhikr, the adhkar, up until sunrise, to have this ta'amir al-waqt, to keep oneself busy, busy with good, so that you don't become busy with evil. And this is one of the things that Imam Shafi'i said. He said, I spent time with the Sufis, and I learned two things. He said, the one thing that they say, al-waqtu kas-sayf, that time is like a sword, so either you cut with it or it cuts you. So if your time just kind of haphazard and you don't structure your time in a positive way, then it will cut you, right? It will debilitate you and eventually destroy you if you don't structure your time in a positive way. And the other word that he learned, another saying that he said is, "Nafsuka illam tashghilha bil khair, shaghalaka bil shar." Your nafs, if you don't keep it busy with good, then it will keep you busy with evil. So both of them have something to do with how we spend our time. Our most basic resource, right? Our basic capital is time. How do we spend our time? So let's go on and read the last section of this discourse. He says, يا غلام لا تستغني عني برأيك فإنك تضل من استغنى برأيه ضل وذل وزل إذا استغنيت برأيك حرمت الهداية والحماية لأنك ما طلبتها ولا دخلت في سببها تقول أنا مستغن عن علم العلماء وتدعي العلم فأين العمل ما تأثير هذه الدعوة ما مصداقها إنما تتبين صحة دعواك للعلم بالعمل والإخلاص والصبر على البلاء ولا تتغير ولا تجزع ولا تشكو إلى الخلق أنت أعمى كيف تدعي البصر أنت سقيم الفهم كيف تدعي الفهم تب من دعواك الكاذبة إلى الله عز وجل وعليك به دون غيره. تعرض عن الكل وتطلب خالق الكل. ما عليك ممن انكسر وانجبر وهلك أو ملك. عليك بخويصة نفسك إلى أن تطمئن وتعرف ربها عز وجل، فحينئذ التفت إلى غيرك. عليك بجادة مراده، اطلب صحبته في الدنيا والآخرة. عليك بالتقوى والتجريد والتفرد عمن سواه. عليك بالمحو أبدا، لا تثبت نفسك في شيء إلا في الأوامر والنواهي، فإنه هو أثبتك فيها. يا رجال ونساء، قد أفلح منكم من كان معه ذرة من الإخلاص، ذرة من التقوى، ذرة من الصبر والشكر. إني أراكم مفاليس. So he says, page 212, for those of you who are following along, O young man, do not ignore me and follow your own subjective thinking, because you'll go astray. Anyone who tries to get by with his subjective ideas alone will go astray, dhalla, and fall, dhalla, and slip, zalla. When you rely entirely on your own thinking, you are deprived of guidance, hidayah, and protection, because you do not look for them and do not see the reason for them. You say, I can manage without the knowledge of the scholars of the ulama. You lay claim to ilm or knowledge. Where is the practice, the amal? What is the effect of this claim? What is its corroboration? The validity of your claim to knowledge will be demonstrated only by practical action, sincerity, ikhlas, and patience, sabr, in the face of adversity, and by not you being changeable, not getting worried, and not complaining to other creatures. You are blind, so how can you claim to be perceptive? Your intelligence is defective, so how can you claim to understand? Give up your false pretension and repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one you need to the exclusion of any other. You must turn away from everything and seek the creator of everything. Do not concern yourself with those who can be broken and restored, destroyed and controlled. Attend to the private business of your own self. And this is part of a hadith, عليك بخويصة نفسك, until it is tamed and really knows its Lord. Then you may pay attention to others. So let's just look at that part. So this التفرد أو الانفراد والاستغناء بالرأي, as he calls it. So to see yourself as self-sufficient and not in need, and making your own decisions. And generally this is what gets people into a lot of trouble. Even the Prophet ﷺ was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek counsel. He was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek counsel from the Sahaba. وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. شَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Seek counsel from them. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ, right? If you are now resolved to a certain course of action, then تَوَكَّلْ عَلى اللَّهِ, right? فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلى اللَّهِ. Then you have reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But to reach the decision, right? How people reach the decisions that they do is, I think, a lost science or a lost art. Our culture has conditioned us to think this whole idea of, putting yourself up by the bootstraps and, you're going to make it on your own. And, it's you're the hero of your own story. And, even in popular culture, always in the movies, you see, the hero is the one who doesn't need anybody and leaves everybody behind and, makes, and is able to figure it out on their own without anybody's help for the most part, and that sort of thing. And that's actually quite a dangerous way to go about doing things, because we need other people, and we need people who are wiser than us, and we need people who are أهل الذكر. The Quran commands us, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Seek the people of remembrance, in other words, those who are constant in their remembrance of God and in their knowledge of Allah. إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you don't know, then you should ask them. And so there's no weakness. It's not a sign of weakness to ask others if you don't know. It's actually a sign of strength and a sign of confidence in your own self, that you're willing to take the advice and willing to take the counsel of others. And in this sense, we can reconcile some of the, let's say, the currents within the Islamic tradition or the deen that talk about, on the one hand, dunya is dangerous, stay away from it. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he alluded to, عليك بخويصة نفسك. If you see people are gone astray, and the Rawabida are talking, the people who don't know anything, then عليك بخويصة نفسك, stay to yourself, and لا تتكلم في أمور العامة, don't address people in the amma, in the general sense. Stay close to yourself and protect yourself and that sort of thing. So that's one kind of current within the Islamic or the prophetic teachings that we find. And then we find another current that tells us to give and to protect others and to strive and to nashr kalimat al-da'wah, and to speak the truth, حتى عند سلطان جائر, even if it's a corrupt power before you, to help people, to help the orphans. So they seem contradictory, but they're not contradictory. One way, I think, looking at the Sheikh's words, that we can reconcile them is it depends upon where you are inside. So when you engage with others and when you engage with the outside world, you want to be sincere about it. And if you are not quite ready at that level to be sincere about it, and you need some spiritual purification to happen first, then maybe عليك بخويصة نفسك. Maybe then a strategic retreat is the best way to say it. So when we talk about atikaf in Ramadan, for example, spending the last 10 days and 10 nights, or how many number of days and nights in the masjid just for prayer and reflection and dhikr, and also we talk about uzla, right, an isolation for a period of time. Let's call them strategic retreats. They're not supposed to be the permanent way that we live, but they're strategic. So not that we can avoid people, but we want people to avoid us because we're not ready in a state to tolerate and to be compassionate and to be merciful. If you look at the people of Ocean, if you look at the people that you consider to be sinning with an eye that I'm better than them, then you're not ready for that yet. If you feel that you're better than people because of where you're at, then you haven't tasted that maqam. You haven't tasted the station of what he's talking about, maqam al-qawm, of ma'rifah. If you see yourself as better because of some particular act that they did or some expectation that you have. But when you see them making mistakes and sinning, and you look at them with compassion, with mercy, what we call ishfaq, rafa, rahma, you feel driven that you want to help them and pull them and take them by the hand and bring them out of that situation, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has turned your heart, and maybe now you're ready to engage with them in the right way. But if your idea of da'wah is fire and brimstone, and to yell at them and to have this anger in your words because you're angry with them because of what their acts that they did, we don't despise the dhawat. We don't despise the human beings themselves, their essences. We may despise what they do, and we see that their internal battle between their nafs and their shaitan and their hawa and their caprice, the husn al-dhan in us, the good opinion in us, is to say that got the better of them. غَلَبَهُ shaitan, right? His shaitan got the better of him this time around. But still to see them as redeemable, right? Not beyond redemption. This was the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Moses and Aaron, to Musa and Harun. He said, go to Fir'aun, فَإِنَّهُ طَغَى. He admits طَغَى, هو من الطغيان, right? He claims to be a Lord and a God and other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he said, اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقولا له قولا لينا لعله يتذكر أو يخشى. Say قول قولا لينا. Say gentle, easy words. Perhaps يتذكر. Maybe he'll remember. Maybe it'll stir something inside him. أو يخشى. He'll find khashya. He'll find God. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that's not going to happen. But nevertheless, the methodology of the da'wah is such that this is how we approach people. At least initially, we give them a chance, right? And we have to be able to tolerate much from them. If you're not ready to tolerate hurt and sharp words and criticism and things like that, you don't have the skin for the game, to use an expression in it, then don't be in the game. Then be a abid, worship in your house, read Quran, make dhikr, so forth. But if your idea of da'wah, if that's what you're going to do, is going to be about, pointing your finger at people and, designating them to certain spots in hell and things like that, and judging them, then you're not cut out for that. That's, or at least you're not cut out for the methodology of al-Qawm, these people, Ahlullah, and as Sidi Abd al-Qadir Jilani is telling us. So that's why he said, seek the companionship of Allah in the dunya and the akhirah, عليك بالتقوى والتجريد والتفرد عمن سواه. Right? Taqwa and tajreed. Strip yourself of all other connections from your heart. Detach yourself from that. At-tafarrud. Be strong by yourself. عليك بالمحو أبدا. Right? بالمحو والإثبات. This is another term that you find a lot. Mahwi, erasure, and confirmation. So see yourself in the realm of erasure until Allah confirms you. You don't confirm yourself, like as we said the other session. لا تظهر بنفسك لا تظهر نفسك. Don't put yourself out there by in a kind of unilateral way and you think this is the right thing to do. Let Allah be the one. هو الذي يتولاك. Let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be the one, take you under his wing, as it were, and he will put you there. The only thing that you should have إثبات, he says, في الأوامر والنواهي. أو أثبتك فيها. This is what he asks of you. Commands and prohibitions. Follow those things. And inshallah you will find success and felicity with Allah ta'ala. So we'll stop here inshallah and we'll take questions. بإذن الله جزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم.